Hello everyone, my name is Nailah Aufa Labibah, and today I will explain my infographic titled Lacanian Psychoanalysis in Literature. This infographic summarizes key ideas from Jacques Lacan, a major psychoanalyst, and shows how his theory can be used to analyze a literary work, specifically The Yellow Bell Pepper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So, yeah, actually, there's still lots of content or like the theory from Jacques Lacan that I didn't input here because I think those are too hard to understand. So my poster includes only a short introduction to Lacan, a definition of psychoanalysis, Lacan's main theories, and we have two major concepts here, the mirror stage and desire, and finally an application of this approach to literature. All right, let's go through each part. So first, my infographic introduces Jacques Lacan, a French psychoanalyst who expanded Sigmund Freud's ideas, and according to Clark 1988, Lacan emphasized language as the key to understanding the unconscious. So instead of focusing only on emotions or childhood memories, Lacan believed that our desires, identity, and the way we think are shaped through language, images, and social structures. And yeah, this is important for literature because it means we can study characters not only through their actions, but through the words, symbols, and meanings in the text. And in the second section here, I define psychoanalysis as a literary approach. So Lacanian psychoanalysis sees human behavior as shaped by the unconscious, and this unconscious works like language, meaning desire and identity are structured by symbols and communications, not simply by logic or biology. So when we read a story, Lacanian analysis helps us understand why characters behave in complex or contradictory ways, and what desires motivate them, and how language reveals their unconscious thoughts. Next, my infographic explains Lacan's three major concepts, um, which are the real, the imaginary, and the symbolic. So the real is what cannot be fully expressed in language. It's things like trauma or contradictions we cannot articulate. And characters often face the real when they experience something overwhelming or impossible to describe. And about the imaginary is the world of images, identity, and relationships. This is where the ego is formed, especially through how we see ourselves and others. Gallup 1985 explains that the imaginary is tied to fantasy and self-image. And the symbolic is the world of language, rules, culture, and society. When a character enters the symbolic, they learn language and social laws that shape their desires. And yeah, these three orders interact and sometimes conflict, and that tension helps us understand the character's psychological struggles. And next is the mirror stage. This is one of the Lacan's most famous ideas. This is the moment when an infant sees its reflection and recognizes self. But Lacan says this is actually an illusion, a clean, perfect image that doesn't match the child's real experience. So this creates a misrecognition. This creates a misrecognized identity, and the search for completeness continues throughout life. In literature, this helps us read characters who struggle with self-image, confidence, or identity crisis. And another important concept in my poster here is desire, which Lacan says comes from lack, not need. We desire what we feel is missing, and that desire is shaped by language and other people's expectations. But desire is never fully satisfied because it's based on symbolic meaning, not physical object. In stories, Lacanian desires help explain why characters are never complete, why they want certain things, or why they act irrationally. And finally, my infographic applies all of these ideas to the short story, The Yellow Wallpaper. So, at the beginning of the story, the narrator Jane is trapped in the symbolic order. It means society controls her through rules, gender roles, and languages. And her husband dismisses her thoughts and forbids her from writing, which weakens her connection to language because she was actually a writer, but then she was like ill, so she has to be isolated by her husband. So her husband is like was a doctor, so she here as a wife and a passion actually. And as she becomes isolated, she starts slipping out of the symbolic and enters the imaginary order. Her obsession with the wallpaper makes her create fantasies of a woman trapped inside it. Yeah, so as a context, she isolated in a room that has a yellow wallpaper and has a like flower pattern. It's like an ugly yellow. So it it was don't make her comfortable in that room. So yeah, her obsession with the wallpaper makes her create fantasies of a woman trapped inside it. And she fully believes in this image, which shows a psychological shift from reality into illusion. And at the end of the story, when Jane crawls around the room, she leaves the symbolic entirely. She either returns to a childlike imaginary state or enters the real, where language breaks down and her identity collapses. This Lacanian reading shows how the story explores identity, expression, repression, desire, and mental collapse through the three orders. Yeah, I think that's all. That is the overall explanation of my infographic. I covered Lacan's background, the definition of psychoanalysis, his main theories, and how they apply to the yellow wallpaper literary work. Yeah. Thank you for listening and yeah, thank you so much.